Okay. Cool. We have the camera going. That means class can start. We have everyone but Anna? She's the elevator. The elevator's always trying to eat her. Does anybody know what our ambient video is today?
A live video.
One of our things is the thing where you interact with the grasshopper.
What is it?
Is it the insect? Yeah.
Whoa.
It's the insect museum.
Yeah. So it's like a room for.
It's pretty great. This is live.
Oh my gosh.
So, this is great. I've never seen it when people were interacting with it. It's really well done, right? When I first look at it, it just looks like a real room, and then suddenly there's giant people out there.
That's so great. Where are the insects?
Let's see. There's a grasshopper right over there. A while ago.
Oh, it's
There's
by
a,
the little TV.
there's a little sculpture.
If you look over there by the TV, it looks like
Oh yeah.
something
Oh.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a little
on the TV.
guy or girl over there.
It's like this girl in the chair.
Wait, where is this?
This, I believe, is in Minnesota. Don't quote me on it, but I think it's there.
Name of it.
Yeah. It's in a state. One of them. Does anybody know who made this?
Amy Young.
Oh, context clues. Yes. So Amy Young's our guest speaker today. Her awesome, cool website, hypernatural.com. She is a professor where?
At University of Ohio.
I think it's Ohio State University.
That.
Close enough.
But yeah, anyway, and she does lots of cool art projects with living creatures. And so she'll probably, she's going to come in at 12:30 today and discuss some of her works. And this is your opportunity to be like, why would you make a museum for crickets or things like that? Or like, hey, I'm doing this project with worms. You're one of the best like worm art experts out there. You know, I got some questions for you. So it should be really fun. She's super great. I went and chatted with her class last week, and it was really fun. They're doing all kinds of different things too. There's someone working on an art project with termites and making them crawl around and stuff, wanting to track them. There was somebody working with salmon and working with salmon. Apparently, can like smell super minute quantities, like like a trillionth of density of smells in a zone. And so they can smell really acutely, except if there's copper. Copper is like their kryptonite. And if there's like traces of copper, it like dulls their senses. It's very strange. Then they can't find their way home. So doing all kinds of very weird, interesting stuff over there too. But for now, I'm going to put the volume down a little bit on the Cricket Museum here. And I just wanted to go around, get some really quick updates from all of you, then chat about some of the cool papers we read over the weekend, and then it'll probably be time to talk with Amy Youngs. One quick question, and this may lean toward Eric. Anybody have a Thunderbolt to VGA adapter?
I left mine at home.
Always prepared. Nice. Awesome. Because I think I'm going to put Amy Young's up on the big screen for all of you when we start it up. What's that?
So apparently the Mac version is called Thunderbolt.
It's like their new weirdest USB.
Yeah, it's made
Oh,
by
they made the new
Intel.
one? That's not
And it
surprising.
can support up to 6 devices at once.
Really?
With like over HD quality video, sound, power, data input, output, all in one cable.
There you go.
But that's actually just a mini display port. actually fits inside a Thunderbolt port, so they can do the same thing.
Okay, so it can
Like
still
the
work.
down version of Thunderbolt.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so let's pull up chairs. Have some real talk. How are all the projects going?
I'm actually working on mine with Anna tonight and tomorrow, so it looks like we'll do a lot of progress tonight.
Cool. What is your guys'? I want to start doing some game plans. You guys have very concrete game plans.
Yeah, we're
We're gonna do
still
this,
looking.
and then we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do
Yeah,
this.
that's fine.
As of now,
I
that
like
doesn't sound
stuff
concrete,
concrete.
but what our ideas are right now is, tonight I think we're planning on building our mice, so what's going to happen is, initially we were gonna have like a food distributor, but what now is gonna happen is, with the, I forget what they're called, what we looked at, on Thursday with like the little motor, we're going to somehow create these mice and attach the motor to it so that the mice will be like ejected through the rotating food distributor. So we're still going to use the photoresistor so that if the cat can interact with that, and then once it catches a mouse, another one will be ejected, but we're going to somehow manipulate the mice into desiring the dark. So the mouse is always going to go towards the dark.
So that's your overall concept. What are some game plans you got for tonight? Like
Making the
tonight,
mice.
I'm gonna make a mouse. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. What kind of like? You're gonna make them out of fabric. What are you gonna make them out of?
I think what we want to do is actually get like a mouse toy from PetSmart and then like somehow manipulate the inside. So I don't think we actually gonna physically making a mouse.
Okay. Cool. Just buy some.
And then
Putting
putting the
things
motor
in
in
it.
it, yeah.
Sounds good. Cool. Let's go in crazy spiral.
Okay.
You guys.
Alright, so our original game plan was to get some conductive thread from the internet that store it's being obnoxious.
Let's EMF.
I went to a different one, which was my fatal flaw. But, so that's not gonna happen, but I'm gonna try photoresistor and different kinds of pressure pads too, and just, we're gonna go put it in a tree. They work.
Cool.
Put it in a tree and see what happens.
Good. Yeah, get it in the tree.
Cause it's pretty much good to go, we just have to set it up.
Okay. I have some conductive thread you can borrow too if you want.
Okay.
You want me to bring it on like Thursday?
Yeah, that would be cool.
It's okay. I can bring it in tomorrow too if you want to just grab it from me. I'll be in
Fine.
TSRB.
Alright, that's,
Alright, so Thursday?
yeah.
Alright, cool. Cool. Talking game plan, Dan. We already got you guys' game plan. You're gonna try to make a mouse.
Yep, pretty much like.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah.
Our supplies are going to be in tomorrow, and then we're going to try to get a design layout for the game board, and start like laser cutting and laying out the game board layout.
Cool. Awesome. Have you guys tested the concept of your game yet? Like how the game functions?
Not necessarily.
We've come up with like design ideas for it and what we like hope will work, but we haven't actually tested it yet with like actual acrylic and the ones moving through.
Oh, sure. I just mean like your idea for like the worms move here, or like the goal is to get all the worms on this side, or whatever your overall game concept is. Have you guys like played with that at all yet?
I mean, I have on paper.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I was just wondering like if you guys were how that was going. The game.
Yeah, I've kind of drawn it out on paper, like where the lights would be, and different touches and stuff.
Cool. What I would kind of recommend doing is right before you cut out like the acrylic or whatever, maybe just do like some like play acting between you two, where you just do like maybe like a sped up version where like you'll do a turn and then she'll move some like gummy worms or even real worms around, just like a piece of paper, and then just kind of see how the gameplay goes, because maybe you're like, oh, well, maybe all of the things need to be a little bit wider or something like that, just to like give yourself a very tactile idea of how the game will function in case there's any last minute adjustments you want to make. Yeah, sounds good. Cool.
Cool. This past weekend was a lot of refining of like specific technologies, like exactly how to do internet connectivity. All parts are ordered, all wool is ordered, so that I'm doing a lot of wool stuff now. Stroke sensor, I'm planning to get done by Friday. Wireless connectivity is going to be the main thing that will hopefully get done Sunday. And then stretch goals for next week's Tuesday prototype will be after being able to send messages, lights, vibrations. But
So you're saying for the wireless, that is for the human to receive data from the cat?
yeah, just if anything, does a stroke actually send something over the internet?
Okay.
So
So yeah, we'll split that goal, that overall task up into two things. Can you register a stroke on a computer? Or that's one step. Can you register the stroke on the computer and send it to somewhere on the internet?
yeah,
Finally, can you pull that data from the internet to your human body walking around in daily life?
yes. So very basic, like mostly sending messages to each other. So more like sending and receiving. That's the plan for getting done by Sunday. And
Okay.
then hopefully once message is sent and received, the rest is workable.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, be able to. That sounds good. How are you planning on getting the message? Are you going to use Android, or are you going to use some other?
I'm gonna see how I feel about just playing Jobs Socket and basic networking. It'll be my first time. So.
Okay. How does it get to the human? What are they?
Hopefully if I can configure my Wi-Fi to like actually
Oh,
connect.
what's a Wi-Fi?
It's a Wi-Fi. Wait. Oh, I have things. I got snake these from my assistant dean. These dudes are apparently so. I was having trouble trying to figure out which equipment because the XPs for the lily pad won't work out and things like that. But this should connect to a Wi-Fi network, given its own MAC address. So
Okay.
that's the plan.
Yeah. So be able to see if you can get those on the Georgia Tech
Yeah.
web.
Like hopefully there's some sort of consistent, if anything.
You probably have to log in with the GT other. You might want to
I
just.
want to talk to OIT.
Yeah, you might want to just go ahead and just send in a help request right now, and then they'll give you, send them all the specs from those things, and
Yeah, 'cause you know when you put weird things on OIT, they can like bypass the security for you.
Okay, cool.
so here's an example of a thing that I'm making for a different class that wouldn't
You're not. I'm not sure you want that.
that would not work for your circumstances, but it's just another example of a wireless device. So everyone, these are XPs, which are just basically little radios that chat with each other. They look very similar to the Wi-Fi, is that what they're called?
Yeah.
That she has, except that these guys don't really hook up to Wi-Fi at all. All they're doing is really talking to each other or possibly making little mesh networks. But what we can do is, so this is an early prototype for putting haptic feedback onto a dog. So I have just 3 vibration motors hooked up to an Arduino that's hooked up to an XP. That XP can receive commands from this XP, and then I just run a little processing app. Find that thing that I made yesterday. Dog mover. I tested this out on myself yesterday, but I've never actually tried it on a real dog. But basically, now, the way it works is this XP that's hooked up right here. You know how you guys can send things over the serial to your Arduinos? This XB just takes the straight up serial feed and just sends out whatever I want. So if I send the character H to the serial, this XB just broadcasts H everywhere we go. So I have 3 letters that I can send out: an up, a left, and a right. Let's see if it's actually going. It's not. Oh, it's not. Yeah. So if you put your hand there, up, up, left, left. So I can. I actually had my wife drove me around the room I was crawling around yesterday to test it out. So I just like put it on my back to see if I could feel it, and she would press like up, and I would crawl forward, and then like left, and I would go left. It was a very silly time. Left, left, up, left, left, left. So it was super simple to get these things chatting with each other. Yeah.
Could we use that for our projects instead of being here for microphone?
So in order to do that for your project, what you need is you're going to have to fit all of this right here
Inside a mouse.
inside that mouse.
Instead of the Arduino, could we use one of the
Lily
brains?
Little AT Tinies?
Yeah. And a battery.
So you would need that, and you would also need the XP, and then also like this kid speed thing and a battery. What's up? Nice. So you still like, and it'd be a little trickier too. So it would still require probably something about the size of this battery and this XP and the AT Tiny, and then also some tricky serial programming, because those things they don't have a serial port the way that these regular Arduinos do. They have to like simulate one, and it gets kind of weird.
Okay.
You totally can, it's just harder.
Okay. I didn't know if that would make it easier, but
Yeah, I think it would make it harder for you, is why I didn't kind of recommend that.
All right.
Maddie!
Like, yes? Oh, I just want,
We have a minute or so, should we try it?
yeah,
Okay.
I'm learning to be wary of costumes from
We
Halloween.
should go that way.
But
So it's not going to be, right now it's not going to be like a direct command thing. Right now it's just to try to see if we can do like some sort of empathy between the dog and
your things are really
ourselves. We're like, I just want to simulate being able to pet the dog, but from far away, and see if like the dog can actually register this at all.
nice.
So.
What is happening? And she would all agree plan until we put it on.
Okay.
One that here.
Let's see if she.
It doesn't fit.
Okay. I'm going. Did she notice?
Let me hide under leg.
I think she's freaking out.
I think she doesn't get it.
Up, left.
I'm gonna hide under leg.
Up, right,
Maybe she
right.
like
Yeah, that's happening.
Does she even notice?
I don't think
I
she
think
cares.
she.
Okay, I'm doing
I think
nothing?
you would have to like leave it on her for a while so she chills
Up.
out.
Yeah. Yeah, she'd have to like habituate to just the weird vest thing, right?
Yeah, she's just like, what do you want from me?
Have you tested to see if she feels it on the bottom?
Yeah, I don't know. Larry, can you see if like, can you like put your hand kind of near her fur and see if like, can you even feel the vibrating?
Yeah.
Okay. So you think it's like going through her fur?
Oh, definitely.
Interesting.
I think she just really doesn't get it.
Uh-huh.
Aww. Now you behave. Good.
That's what
Behavioral
There
vest.
it is. Just take that off.
Huh.
Behavioral vest.
For a second there, I was going, okay, left. For a second there, her head was moving to whatever side I was pressing. That was kind of interesting.
What is that? So is that like a
She's
mini?
hiding from me too, because she knows after Halloween.
Maddie,
we put all
go to
the
Mary.
costumes on her.
Go to Mary.
Baby.
Go to Mary.
Yes. She's like, I know that.
Buzz.
But I'm-
Stops. That's weird. Huh.
Aww.
It seemed to be kind of like a negative reinforcement right there. So yeah, it definitely doesn't seem to be a technology that works out of the box for emotional. Well, I feel there's an emotional engagement with the
I
animal.
think it was the opposite.
It's just yeah, it's just kind of strange.
It's not petting it.
Yeah.
It's a ghost.
It's stressing
Huh.
her.
Okay, well we can pop it off of her, and I'll get the hangout set up with Amy Young.
Putting weird things on your back. Okay.
Aww. Reunited.
Yeah.
Okay, Maddie,
Each time you do that, she comes back here.
There you go. Now the thing won't buzz you.
Okay.
What a good puppy. Aw, thanks, Maddie.
Alright, free. Now you're gonna be happy to run all of them. No, you're still in the
Okay. Cool. But anyway, quick introduction to XP. These things can work up to about 200-300 feet. If you get the XP Pros, I think, they can go up to about 2 miles if you're outside, which is kind of cool. They basically use the same little radios that model airplanes use.
Tutorial for it on my project, and it's tutorial for my project.
Aww.
It was well designed and everything.
I could
I
go
was
to
like,
Where is he?
Where is it?
Ah, he's just
Crawling over to hang out with the other cricket.
like, yeah, I didn't get used to feed fish. A reptile at the end of this project.
Yeah, these are some privileged crickets in there, right?
and their lifespan tripled.
Okay.
Fear the day.
Come on, Thunderbolt.
I don't think we should spend.
Fear the day when the baby kills.
What is a good way to be able to understand how much power your rig, your setup will need? Because you use a 9-volt, and last night I was like, should I get a 9-volt? No, I'll be fine with just like this 5-volt thing.
Uh-huh.
Am I wrong?
It depends. What do you need you just need a battery for your Pocket Cat and your motors, right?
Yeah, and Wi-Fi.
And the Wi-Fi. I would recommend a LiPo battery, a lithium polymer battery.
Got
They can give so a lot of batteries have a maximum output of like energy, like even if you cross the wires together and try to turn them into a bomb, they have like a maximum output where they'll just like the 9-volt will just get kind of hot and burn. The LiPos will turn into a bomb. So if you just take their wires and just go like, they'll melt your hands and then they'll big ball of flames. So
I start, so we'll wrap up.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So warm.
But they're all rated
Hit the turbo.
on all those batteries. On all those batteries, you'll see a little rating called like MAH.
I got
It's
1,000.
milliamp hours. So if your overall project uses 1,000 milliamps, your project will be able to run on your body for an hour. That's how it works. So you can look up how much energy all the different components use. Like your little Wi-Fi dongle maybe use like 200 milliamps or something like that. Your Arduino will maybe use like 100. Different things like that. And you can basically just do some simple math like that. And in reality, it'll end up a little bit differently. But
Gotcha. Thank you.
yeah.
I just need, I wanted a way to estimate it at least, so I wasn't just shooting in the dark.
Uh-huh.
Is that phrase?
Hey, look at that.
I think a shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
You did
You
it.
totally got a phrase.
Oh God,
Did
I
you-
can speak to people.
Okay. Plus, plus C plus dot Google.
Technically, like the correct username.
we're gonna hang out.
What?
We are?
Is something people say that doesn't have
Oh, I thought you guys could see something that I could.
Right now.
I'm like, already?
See you
I
next
haven't done
Friday.
anything.
to be. Yeah,
Um,
before the
let's those are people I know, apparently. My wife told me that she has some kale and apples. Hangouts, new hangout. Let's do this.
Google does that. Tells me I know people.
Fear of God and two cookie makers.
Okay. Hey. Thing.
That sound. No.
My computer's going nuts. Where did it go? As soon as the Hangout opened, the projector did not want to be a projector. Hey, there's something.
Hello?
Hey, hi Amy.
Hi.
You are a talking orb. Ah, there you are. Nice. Cool. Hello. And yeah, she can see us. We can see. She can see me. Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Oh, you ruined everything.
I ruined it.
Ruined forever.
Alright, y'all.
Okay. Oh, I see you again a little bit. You see the ceiling. Soon it should be back to
Hey, your
us.
classroom looks like ours. Oh, I see you now.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I think it's going. And now I'm going to put you on the big screen. Okay. Cool. And now let's see. I'm going to even try to get the Thunderbolt. I'm going to try to get some audio up on the big thing, and then we're going to have like really awesome chatting. Let's see. Da, da, da. Yeah. Okay. So we start off.
I'm waving at you.
Waving back.
Can you see our return waves?
Hey.
What can you see?
Oh no.
Okay, everyone in the class, raise your hand. And Amy, tell us how many hands you can see.
I see 3 people.
3 people. So I'm guessing class, because this cord keeps being fickle, let's move to where those 3 are. Perfect. So we have 7 students and 1 dog present in class. And yeah, every day we usually start class with, we have a little bit of ambient video that we show of some animals going around in some sort of habitat, interacting with it. And today we had the Museum for Insects up there with the live feed of the crickets.
Oh, great!
Yeah, it was terrific. And it was
Did you try to control it? Turn on the lights and stuff?
Oh, I didn't know we could control it. Oh, we'll have to try that out.
Yeah.
There was a couple of rambunctious kids that we saw.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was great.
Oh, cool.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, you just want to do a similar kind of thing, chat about your stuff, and then we'll chat with you.
I have some slides to show, but I guess maybe I should find out what's our time frame? Should I just kind of run through a few slides, or what do you think?
We have an hour till everyone
Okay.
has to scram. So however you want to take on the hour, it's up to you.
All right. Well, why not? It's great that you're showing the Museum for Insects now. That was kind of like what I was going to show at the end. So maybe what I'll do is talk about some of the projects that came before that and how I approach my work as an artist, and really kind of how I play with animals and some similar ways to maybe you do, and also maybe a little bit different. And you guys are like a design class, right? You're in a design, is that true?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
So we're a humanities program, right?
In
So-
an engineering school.
In an engineering school, and it's kind of a design class. But so we're somewhere in the middle of all of that. So they have to make stuff themselves, and then like kind of analyze it with like media theory, and then also, you know, focus on all the designing the components to make some sort of sense, you know, together, build meaning with their design. So it's a tangled mess, and sometimes they freak out about it, but mostly they're really awesome.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good. Well, so I'm really coming from this as an artist, but I think I've been accused of being a designer a lot. Like the art people usually scoff at what I do and say I'm making design because I'm often thinking about designing ways of interacting with animals and plants. So I'm going to kind of focus on that work today, some of the, and really why I do that kind of work too. So I guess I'm going to try to do that screen share thing that you figured out how to do.
Yeah.
Because I've got some slides. Let's see if I can figure this out. So, little green button. Got it? Got it? Okay, here comes a slideshow, and I'll try not to make it.
Nice.
Okay, cool.
Take
Awesome.
notes.
Now, so, and I invite you to interrupt me. Oh shoot, how do I get out of the screen share? Maybe just mistake. Okay, cool. Okay, so I invite you to kind of interrupt me whenever you want because I need to make it more like a conversation. And I like to talk in front of slides and images. So here they are. Encounters with animals, human and non-human. And I'm an artist and a professor of art and technology at The Ohio State University, where I've been for about 13 years now, so it's a long time. You guys should come apply to our graduate program. We have a free grad school here, tuition and stuff, so come join us.
Cool.
And I start out with a picture of a rabbit always because it's where my original interest came from. As an artist, I was a kind of a 4-H nerd before being an artist, and I raised rabbits, and this is actually a mutation. It's actually the most recent mutation in domestic rabbits, this lion head, sort of fluffy maned rabbit. This is my pet, though.
You might have to speak
and I
up,
think,
Danielle.
I think about
When we have a question, we're gonna go ding. Since it can be hard to see if hands are being raised while you give the presentation.
I can.
Well, I mean, I didn't want to interrupt. It's just, have you already changed the slide? Because I'm not sure if we're lagging visually with.
Yeah, we're stuck on the first slide. There we go. Now we see the rabbit.
Okay, well I'll just go do it like this then.
Okay, cool. Great.
So now you see the bunny, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Lion. Awesome, good. So that's the circus boy. He's a lionhead rabbit. And I guess you can also see my notes here that I think about domestication in animals too, that it's a collaboration between humans and non-humans. So a lot of my work has to do with domestication. And when you raise rabbits for 4-H and shows, there is a collaboration within even the genetics of the breed as you selectively breed and get rid of the ones that are like not good and keep the ones that are good. So there's a definite interaction there, long-standing interaction that humans have had with domestic animals and with show animals. All right, and then let's see. Oh yeah, so here's the circus boy's mom. And I think about what animals like. I think about like what do they want and what kinds of things do they like. And they like tulips like us. So they eat pretty much the same kinds of things that we eat plant-wise. And they like stuff that we can, and it helps me to think about how to interact with animals when I know what they like, what their interests are. So I do a lot of observations of my own pets and think about ways of interacting with them. So getting into more of the art now, this is a project that I did a long time ago called Prototypes for Hermit Crab Shells that I thought about what do hermit crabs want, and they want to move into new shells. And I tried really hard to design shells that they would want to live in. And I didn't really know very much about them going into the project. I learned all kinds of things about what they actually want. They have to have a spiral that goes a certain way in order for their bodies to fit in there. it has to be a certain weight, a certain size. I mean, they're very picky, as they should be. They've evolutionarily evolved with snails who built these shells for them. So they've kind of co-evolved with snails already. And so for me to sort of jump in and imagine that I could actually give them a shell that they would want was probably hubris on my part. And indeed it was. No hermit crab moved into any of my cool rapid prototype shells. They just completely rejected them. Part of the project was to make an animation to sort of show the humans and also the crabs. Like, here's how amazing you would look if you moved into one of these shells, right? You'd have thumb on the back, and it would be amazing, right? So what I want for them is clearly not what they want for them, and that was actually a really good learning experience for me. About designing for animals and how much more complex it is to really consider the animal. It's really easy to think about what humans want for animals. That's really what we always do. We want to eat them. We want them to be pets. We want them to love us, and dogs. We have a lot of things that we want from animals, but thinking about what animals want is actually a much more difficult problem, I think. I did end up working with some glass blowers, and I did, after I learned a lot more about what their body shapes were, what they actually wanted, they're like smooth shells, I did get this beautiful glass shell, and one of the crabs did move into it, and tried really hard to haul it around. It was a little heavy for it. So it ended up kind of, even though I gave it a lot of options for shells that it could move into, it really, really did like that glass shell, and that made me happy, but in the end it was sort of sad because it ended up dying. I think maybe, I don't know, it really wanted that glass shell, and it really wasn't right for it in the end. It was too heavy and kept falling over. It was kind of sad.
Ding,
so
ding.
I think a lot about encounters with animals and how, in some ways, it's really pretty sad sometimes. When we encounter animals, usually the animal ends up on the bad side of the situation, and we're not always maybe giving them what they really need. But I continue because I'm really interested in ways that humans and animals interact. I don't really subscribe to that idea that we should just leave them alone because they have been a big part of our culture. And these are examples of the ways that ancient Chinese have worked with crickets. So they've thought about crickets as a really interesting and important part of their culture, and they've designed all of these really beautiful objects like this metal cage that would sit up against your body to keep it warm, and these special singing gourds so that you would put your crickets in there and it would amplify just that frequency of chirping that they do as a way to make it special and to make them special in our lives. And that's not something we think about with crickets. We think about them as pets. In China, they've got all these cool little objects, special feeding dishes, little sleeping chambers, and I was really inspired by that kind of interaction with animals through designed objects to make them special. And of course, now we have technology, so I often think about how to do that with technology too. So this is one of my really recent pieces. I just showed this last month, actually, in Germany, and it's a project that allows crickets to control the video landscape, and it allows humans to kind of enter into that landscape through green screen and in a kind of special bubble world that's special for the cricket. And also a large-scale projection so that the humans could then see themselves reprojected large with the crickets reprojected large. So it's a kind of a scale shift in a sense of trying to enter into their world and think about animals and our connection with animals differently by seeing them differently. You can actually see them when they're big, and you can see them differently when they're in environments that we can kind of relate to better. So, this almost game-like or playground-like little world that's kind of a terrible video. I apologize, but it sort of gives you a rough idea of how it works. So when the crickets are chirping, their high-pitched chirp activates the landscape video that moves projected on the back of their bubble. And then there's another little camera inside that bubble that reprojects it really large so that the humans can see that larger scale system at our scale happening. And you can kind of watch them climb in these little mushroom-shaped things in the rocks and the grass and feel like maybe they're in our world more than just as pets. And in fact, they are domestic animals, these crickets. They're the kind that you feed to your lizards and snakes, you know, that you buy in the pet store. Actually, I saw you guys were making projects with crickets, so you know what I'm talking about.
Totally. Yeah, how many cricket projects do we have for the previous thing? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, almost half the class did crickets for the previous project that we had. We had, Anna had something with...
I totally relate to that, because you don't feel like you're imprisoning them. With a lot of animals, I worry about, like, oh, you know, I don't want to put them in a cage. I want to, you know, like, leave them alone, really. But with these crickets, there is no leaving them alone. I think if we leave them alone, they're not going to be around. So we actually do, I think, have some kind of responsibility to interact with these animals, at least because we're the ones that they're domesticated around humans. So it's not like we can just set them free or something. They're going to live. So I don't think they do live in Georgia. I could be wrong. There are a couple places where they do live.
What do you mean by the crickets are domesticated? Like,
What's that?
what do you mean by the crickets are domesticated? Like, how have they changed?
Yeah, good question. These are actually house crickets. So what I mean by domesticated is not that humans necessarily bred them for their houses, but I would say these are self-domesticated animals. They have evolved to live in and around our buildings. So they're not like the field crickets that live outside all year round and they're happy with that. These are the kind that really require a warm environment to live in. They like to eat the kind of food we eat, crumbs and moldy bread and that sort of thing. And they're not like out there eating grass out in the field. They're living in our homes. Actually they would be living in our homes if we didn't probably poison them. But now, instead of living in our homes, we've decided that they're really great for raising in captivity, for feeding to other animals that we like as pets. So we've sort of taken that relationship and altered it for our benefit again. So an animal that started out self-domesticating, we sort of swooped in and said, oh, this is a good idea for us too. They're easy to raise, they're good protein, and actually now I guess people are raising them for human food. So I guess that's the future of these house crickets, is they'll become cricket snack bars. Have you guys seen that?
Yes.
There's currently a market for these crickets in snack bars and stuff because they have so much protein. So
I've mostly just seen the mealworms, but
what's that?
I've mostly just seen the mealworm food. I haven't seen much cricket human food. That sounds cool.
Yeah, I think it's coming. I think you'll be seeing it. I've heard that there's some kind of like Czech snack mix with crickets in it that tastes pretty good. I haven't tried it, but I'm looking forward to it.
Cool.
All right, so moving on to another project. This one was with worms, and I guess one of the students or student projects is working with worms. So I'll talk a little bit about this one. It's an older project that really tries to hear the worms and have humans interact with them in a way that is through the vibration of the worms moving around. And it amplifies the sounds of the worms and then heavily projected that, or it amplified the worms and then put them into these amplified speakers. So it's like multiple levels of amplification, so that when you lay on that couch, you can sort of feel the vibration of the worms. The worms are in the little fuzzy box, kind of trying to be sound isolated, because when people would stomp on the floor, it would cause feedback because the amplification was so high. It was kind of crazy. There were 8 soil microphones in there that were picking up the sound, as well a kind of infrared camera that would project the worms on the ceiling. But worms don't like light, so I just kind of think about how do I make worms visible to people if they don't like visible light. So turns out they don't see in the infrared, which is convenient. So with an infrared camera, I could pick up their movements and then reproject that on the ceiling with the hope that people would then lay on the couch. Have this kind of experience of communing with the worms and watching them in the ceilings and feeling them through their bodies. Because I don't really think that we think so much about these important systems that support our agriculture, our soil, our fertility of our plants. You know, so it's sort of highlighting those creatures in a way, making them seem special. All right, move on. So people interacted with it in a number of ways. All right, I'll move on.
Where was that exhibited at?
It was actually in Australia. I got to actually, for crazily enough, they shipped the whole couch thing there, and we set it up in Australia. I've shown it a couple other places since then, but it's now retired. It's just such a big thing to calibrate and get set up with the sound. Probably there's a better way to do it now. I have to remake it in an easier system. It's just too hard to set up, really. Because you have to calibrate it for the room, and, you know, a fire engine would go by, and the whole thing would start going into feedback death. It was sort of horrific in some ways to try to deal with all of those issues about each separate kind of space that it was shown in. So, all right, so I'm moving on to a kind of project that is an ecosystem project, because I think about how we interact with plants. And plants and worms visible is one of the things that I do in my work. And so this is a project. My husband, Ken Ronaldo, and I think you guys have probably seen his work too, he and I have collaborated quite a bit on working with aquaponic systems. And since then, we've both sort of decided that the fish are a lot of work and hard to kind of keep alive, and also hard to feed. You know, what do you feed fish? Usually it's fish food that's coming from non-sustainable sources. So with this project, I'm thinking more about worms as the nutrient source, because worms can just be fed waste. And in fact, one of the things they love is animal waste, in particular rabbit poop. So it gave me an excuse to have an animal in gallery, which is interesting and problematic when it's a mammal like a rabbit. But I managed to pull it off, sort of. So the rabbit was providing poop for the system, and the gallery staff would interact with this rabbit and play with it. It was actually quite friendly. And sweep up the poop. It did its peeing business in the litter box, fortunately. But the little loose poop things are exactly what worms like to eat. So you sweep that up, and that would provide nutrients for the worm bins, which were actually part of this hydroponic bucket system that was in the gallery. And the worms were also eating food waste that people would bring in, like corn husks and watermelon rinds and stuff like that. They were quite healthy, so they were in these red buckets. And there was a system of plants, edible plants, that would be watered periodically from a solar-powered pump. And this was shown in Denver, so they had a lot of sun. And I could get enough sun to actually power a pump periodically and have this thing turning on and off maybe 6 or 8 times a day to keep everything hydroponically watered and lots of nutrients. But really, interestingly, or maybe not surprisingly, what people were most interested in was the rabbit. and the system was sort of like a novelty for them. But for me, the rabbit was just one part of the system. And that was fun to kind of watch the way that the rabbit really stole the show. And to kind of highlight him being a part of the system, I thought it would be nice to think about him as being edible too, which is why I have a cook pot in there with him eating his little wheatgrass and a cook pot. I mean, he did love to eat, right? I mean, is that not the cutest thing ever, right? Not the life. But rabbits are really creatures that can be used in so many ways by humans. Pets are just one of them. And this rabbit was sort of being used as a fertilizer producer in this sense. And then in the end, after the show, he was, but actually even before the show, somebody wanted to bring him home. So I found him a home right away, of course, because he's so sweet and friendly. But I like thinking about how changeable animals are in our culture, and rabbits really represent that for me, that all of the different ways we use them. So move on. This is a project about webcams, because I'm really fascinated with webcams, as you have seen with the Cricket project, and that's this is one of the projects that came before that Museum for Insects, where I was really fascinated with watching animal webcams. And I think it's because they're real, you know, like it's different when you watch reality TV, it's not very real. And it's another way that we encounter animals in our lives is through media. And these are real animals in real people's homes, or on the farm, or in people's fish tanks. And there would be these intimate moments that you could actually watch on the computer. And I tried to think about ways to make that encounter more intimate and how we could interact with those webcam images through these little fluffy animal head screens, so that you would kind of almost cradle these little animals and care about them in the way that the people who put the webcams on them might care about them. So I think that we point our webcams at animals and things that we care about. We worry about things being stolen, or we care about things, and we want to have always a close watch on them. This is Flossie the pig in a farm in England that I used to always watch. So there she is. And care about Flossie the pig. So these animals that we have webcams on, so many people care about them. You kind of can't eat them anymore, you know? Like there's something about that. You're sort of like, oh, they're so sweet. How could we? They're almost like superstars at a certain point. One of the things though about watching animal webcams is that it's a one-way thing. You're not interacting with them. You're just watching. You're watching in real time, but there's nothing you can really do. And that's really where the Museum for Insects project came from for me. It's like, how can I do something with animals and on webcams? So this is the museum after I built it, before I really got all the art up in it. This is from the front window part of the Museum for Insects. And it was really conceived almost as an internet art project, more than something that would actually be shown in a gallery or a museum. Even though actually I love that it is an actual museum, it makes it funnier to me. But this is the front view of the Museum for Insects, and then this is the camera view. So this camera actually is quite interactive, but only for the people that are in, you can only move the camera around if you're actually in the museum, the Peabody Essex Museum. And the people that are in the museum also have the opportunity to be showing up on the screen. So this is me showing up on the screen for the insects, and I can talk to them, and they can hear me, or at least when it was in my studio, that worked. And now the people at the Peabody Essex Museum can have that experience. They can look through this front window, and you can. I show this picture so you can see it's actually inside of a crate, and it's exhibited inside of a crate, with that idea that we can't really fully know an animal. It's like a black box system. You can sort of peer into it, and you can try to understand it, and you can't really always. You just can't fully grasp it. We're not a cricket. We don't really know what they want. We can make art for them and imagine what they might want, but it's all a guess. So the people in the museum can see a certain viewpoint and can interact with them in certain ways, and then. Yeah, and this is the actual museum where it's located. It's a huge, fancy museum, so that's pretty funny to me. You guys already went to the site, right?
Yeah.
All right, but did you guys get to play with it? You get to go play
No,
with
we didn't get to play with it. We just watched. We didn't do the full interactions yet.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna close out of this and come back to
Cool.
you guys. Woo-hoo. Can you see me now? Am I back? Okay.
Yep.
Because really, So really, I think that it's just like a way for me as a webcam viewer to try to interact with the crickets, and I've designed a little puppet in there, so you can kind of like move the little puppet around, you know, with the cricket puppet. You can cause it to chirp with a button. Ken Ronaldo designed the art projects in it, and also a sound art project for the crickets too. So you can click a button to actually activate the sound, and also turn the lights on and off. So
Cool.
anyway, yeah. So really, that's what I have to show to you guys, and we can go visit that site if you want together.
Yeah, that sounds
And
fun.
you guys can ask me questions. You can just chat about what you're doing.
Cool.
I didn't want to overwhelm the slide. So let me take, if I can, go to a new window now.
Man, this would be a double streaming web experience.
You're
Well,
watching a stream
Yeah.
or a stream.
We'll be streaming.
Go deeper.
You're streaming a video, and then it's streaming back to us. It's two layers of incepted video streaming.
We'll see.
It's gonna be awesome.
Alright, so we go to museum. Alright. Oh, maybe I need to do it in Chrome now that I think about it. I don't think I have my Firefox updated. Let's see. I'll make a new window in Chrome. I'll tell you that. There we go.
Yeah, you're right. We were discussing what made the museum for the insects look so realistic, and Eric was hypothesizing.
Oh, yeah.
It's the lighting that you
Tell me
installed.
what. It's
So-
the lighting, yeah. I guess, yeah. I worked on the I don't know, the way I looked at it was I really worked from photographs and also from my experience of seeing museums a lot, contemporary museums. And I just tried to kind of replicate what my experience was inside contemporary museums. But I actually just started by building the stairs. I figured if I could make the stairs kind of realistic and then some good lighting, that it would all just kind of come together.
It did.
Yeah.
All right, so let me try to share this screen with you guys here. See. That'll work. So yeah, maybe
Beautiful.
you'll hear the crickets too. I'm actually hearing them a little bit. Are you guys able to hear them? Maybe not.
Sorry.
No.
So yeah, nobody is actually there at the screen right now. You can see a chair there, and then a cricket is actually on the screen. It's super funny. And I actually like the screen because it's warm.
Because it's what?
It's warm?
It's actually warm, and they're a little bit cold in there. It's 75 degrees or so, but they would really rather have it be about 80. So they gather around the screen, and it appears as if they're looking at him, and humans love that. We love that crickets would want to look it up. So actually, oh good, there's some visitors. So we can do things on here like turn off the lights, which I'll do. And that's sort of to show that you are actually able to control it from the web. So the people who are in the museum can't actually activate any of the controls. They're really only able to activate the movement of the webcam, and then they can sort of talk. They can talk to the crickets and appear on their screens. There's different levels of interaction for different groups of people. Let's see if we rotate our cricket left. See if that goes.
Is it going to be
It takes longer than,
the big
it might actually,
red one?
it might actually be stopped. Okay, now it moved. There we go.
Ah, we can hear it too.
So yeah, it's pretty loud. It's just like a little servo motor, but it turns out to be loud because of the camera. The camera's picking up all the sound. And then there's also a chirp sound that you can activate in there to try to attract the cricket toward the camera.
What are the demographics of the crickets in your museum?
Oh, do you mean like how old they are and if they're boys or girls?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know for sure because I just asked the museum people to put in like 8 crickets, and I hoped that they had boys and girls. But what I'm noticing, oh yeah, so this is the cricket chirp sound that you're hearing. What I'm noticing is that they're at first there are boys, but it seems like they die faster. That's my experience, and that in the end the boys are kind of like maybe they fought each other too much, or I don't know, wore each other out or something, and they. So right now it feels like maybe there's one. I only once in a while hear a chirping cricket. It's mostly girl crickets in there now. Let's play the sound art for them. And they do go up the stairs there, and then they're not really supposed to be able to get all the way up to the second level, but I think they do get stuck up there. So
You need a tiny velvet rope.
I know. Yeah, I'm hoping that they would come sliding down there's like a little small filament where the hanging sculpture is. It would be really funny to see them slide down there. But they don't actually climb on that. I was surprised. I thought they would actually hop up there and climb around, but I don't never see that. But they do definitely climb up on this little rodeo cricket that Ken has designed. I mean, they definitely climb inside of the sculpture and stuff.
Cool.
Lights back on. So yeah, it's sort of one of those things where you go like, how can I interact with something that's another, that's not a human, without hurting it? Other than petting things, like we know how to interact with dogs and cats and rabbits. They like to be pet, but like, how do you interact with a cricket? What is it like? And as much as I would like to make a petting machine for a cricket, I still don't think the cricket would enjoy that very much. So this is sort of my attempt to think of like, how can I interact with them? I'll turn the lights on, I'll, make this puppet, I'll make chirping, but then it's a problem really. It's kind of a question really. And also with the artwork too, I'll make interesting things for them to climb in and around and for them to look at because they do see things. So it's really kind of a question. It's posing a question about how can humans interact with cricket in ways that don't hurt them.
Right before you came in, we actually tested out trying to pet a machine for petting a larger animal, the dog here. And even that, which you think would be somewhat easier than the cricket, it still kind of freaks her out, the novelty. We have this little vest with some vibration motors on it, and she would be walking and then suddenly like, freak out and go hide.
Yeah, vibrational machine petters aren't as good as the human kind still.
Yeah. Cool. So let's do...
Yeah, so this guy's actually moved the camera a little bit. That's good. So the guy who sits there, so now we're seeing the camera move based on the person that's sitting at there's a separate little kiosk that they can control the camera and see themselves on the TV. So I'll move the puppet for him now. He doesn't, mostly people don't know that these other controls.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he left. We should see him in a few minutes, probably.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys have questions for me or
Yeah.
I don't
So
know, things you want to tell me.
let's do like a couple minutes for some questions for her, and then I'll have you guys try to quickly chat about any of your projects with her. If you guys have questions for your projects. So yeah, anything about her artwork. Danielle.
What did you get to use anything from what you learned of how the Chinese like treated and housed and took care of the crickets that you used in your museum thing?
Oh, that's a good question. You know, I definitely looked into what they were doing, and I was thinking a lot about the ways that they had kept the crickets warm, and the ways that they were privileging the sounds of the crickets. So those sorts of things about body warmth and the sound, I definitely learned from them in terms of those objects. So that gourd that the Chinese were making for the crickets to amplify the sound is something that I think, yeah, definitely inspired my work with the project that I.
Oh, hold on one second, Amy. I bumped the computer.
Sure.
Ah! Oh, sorry. One second. I should have just left it alone. Hubris. Ah! Why is it going nuts? Okay, we stabilized up there, and now.
Did I stop moving?
All right, you're good now. You're good now. Yeah. And I'm not going to touch anything.
Okay.
So yeah, you're just talking about the Chinese
Alright.
cricket research.
Oh yeah, I was just answering that question about. I think that the sound and making the sound special and amplifying the sound for people to highlight that important part of crickets, or that part of crickets that we can interact with, their sounds, and we can kind of appreciate. That's something that I was definitely trying to do with the project that has the plastic bubble that the crickets live in. Because when they chirp, even though I don't amplify the chirping, I'm amplifying it through the movement of the video. So it sort of makes it more visible for humans, and hopefully makes us notice that chirping more. So it's a way of making something special that I really appreciated and learned from with the Chinese cricket. But not so much the fighting part. I don't really get so interested in that, even though I know that that's also a big part of the cricket culture in China, is to fight them. It's not my thing.
Did you have a question, Anna?
I had one, but I forgot what it was. Sorry.
Okay, rethink of your question. Danielle, you got another question?
I have another question. I'm sorry. If you were to do something with hermit crabs again, what would you do?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear
If you were to do something with hermit crabs again, what would you do?
that. Thank you.
The question was, if you wanted to do another project with hermit crabs, are there things that you've like been wanting to try out, or what would you do? What would your next project be if you had to use hermit crabs?
Oh man, I don't know. I put that question back to you guys. I feel like I've already annoyed hermit crabs long enough with my project, so I don't know. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not really thinking about hermit crabs right now, but I'm interested in what other people might think about with hermit crabs. Definitely. I think right now I'm thinking more about worms again. I'm kind of back to the interest in worms because not a lot of people are thinking about worms. But actually lately I have seen quite a few people doing sort of similar projects with designing hermit crab shells, especially with the the ability to do 3D rapid prototyping. Now it's so much better. Back then when I was doing it like in 2005 or something, and it was harder to do that, and now it's so much easier to do rapid prototyping. So So I think that people who are better designers are making better hermit crab shells than I was. So I leave it to them.
We'll go
And you.
Anna and Katie.
This was my question earlier.
Come over here to basically the camera can pretty much only see Danielle at this point. There we go. So yeah, just step right.
Right behind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take my
We have like
Okay. What?
becomes kind of like a jury stand. Yeah.
So you said you wanted to work with worms. Like what would you? Do you have any prospective projects, or are you just kind of thinking that you want to work with them and you're just going to come up with something to do with them? Or do you have like a specific plan right now?
Okay, so
I can't hear you very well. Oh man, okay, I'll get closer.
Yeah.
I'm just like right here. Can you
I
hear
can
me?
hear.
You can hear me now?
Yeah. Get right up here.
What are
Okay.
your plans for future projects?
With worms.
With you, because you briefly mentioned worms. I was wondering if you had any
Oh,
specific
yeah.
plans for them.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just starting a conversation with a sound artist to think about how to make a rock band for worms. It's sort of like a kind of playful way to turn worms into rock stars. Yeah, and think about ways that they can activate musical instruments. So that's kind of where my head is. I haven't really started on it yet, but that's what I'm thinking about. And perhaps collaborating with another artist who's more of a musician than me.
Cool.
So that's what I'm thinking about, yeah.
Katie, approach the stand.
Hey, so with your worm projects, is there any type of feedback that you're trying to give back? Can she hear me?
What kind of feedback do you give back to your worms?
Oh, good question. Yeah, no, you guys are doing a lot of projects where there's really good circulation and feedback between the animal and the humans. And mine are a little bit more, there is feedback, but it's not as direct. I would just say that with the worms, and part of why I like the worms so much is that they are composting worms and they're eating our trash. So the feedback I give to worms is I'm having them in my installation and providing them with food. So wherever I show them, I have to usually buy them there locally, unless it's a closed show and I can just bring my own worms. But they always populate to the size of the bin and how much food you give them. So if you feed them a lot of food, they'll grow to accommodate that food. And then and so I think about that as the human feedback, and also the relationship that we have with the worms. So ultimately, they're domesticated in a sense too, because they're now a part of dealing with human waste streams, and we're keeping them in our homes, and our basements, and our gardens, because we like them to process our waste and then give us fertilizer. And then at the end of the exhibition, somebody has to take the worms home. So I'm sort of propagating and spreading the worms out into the world, which is pretty much what most creatures want, is to spread out into the world. So yeah, I think that might be what the worms are getting out of the system. It's not as direct though, I think, as some of the projects I know you guys are working on.
Yeah, but it's interesting to think about, like, especially since all you are going to be dealing with actual living things, what the the long-lasting impacts that your projects are going to have on, either outside with all the squirrels and birds, or your own personal cats. What weird effects these things are going to have on them. Yeah, Katie, pop up here. You got to pop up. You got to just shout at the.
What is the best food that you feed worms? What do you think they like to eat the most?
What's the favorite thing
What's the best
best food for worms?
Oh, what they like are, they eat bacteria. So any kind of food that generates lots of microbes and bacteria, they like. And the kind that's rotting really quickly, like watermelon rinds, cantaloupe rinds, they love it. Coffee grounds, they love it. I don't know. They pretty much eat anything that eats rotting food. And so, by the way, they don't, even though people think rotting food smells really terrible, and it does, The worm bins don't smell terrible because what worms eat are the microbes that create the smell. So they actually prevent the smells from happening around rotting food. So yeah, everyone should have worm bins.
If we could have the
Obvious.
worms in our armpits, we wouldn't need deodorant, right? That'd be kind of cool. Quick, anybody want to worm deodorant? Anybody want to run their project by Amy? Tell her very quickly about it and your ideas. Pop up, first one up goes. Sprint, jump, hop. Eric's here. Eric, he's there. Eric, tell her what the project is.
So we're building like a worm
Duck
board
down.
game. So we're building a worm board game where we're trying to collectively get the worms to go to a certain sector of the board where the humans are trying to like work against them and get them somewhere else. And our main motivation behind that would be light. So what is your experience with using light and worms?
Oh yeah, they hate light. Yeah, they really do. They're very sensitive to light, so they don't see in infrared. So I would actually suggest making your whole project in infrared light, so you can only see them in infrared. And if you wanted though to get them to move away, you could turn on little light. But maybe in the overall environment, you would want it to be in infrared. Otherwise, they're just going to be trying to hide the whole time from, get underneath your game board is where they're going to go.
Have you had any experience with, so our ants that I work with sometimes, they're also insensitive to infrared and longer wavelengths. And so we have this like red cellophane that we can put over them where we can still see them, but then they still think it's dark.
Yeah.
Has that worked at all with worms in your experience? Okay, cool. So that could be a way where you could still, humans could see it. Yeah.
You could definitely do that. And there is actually on the project I did called Digestive Table. If you look on that part of my website, I think that there are 2 types of infrared filters that you can get at theater supply places. One is a sort of a dark red, and the other one is a dark blue. And those together work really well to filter out light that the worms could see. That was something I was using with to be able to use a camera with worms and only let in infrared light. So that was a way to just use natural light filtering in through these filters. So there's 2 kinds of filters together that you use.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you.
And then I think we have time for one more potential question if anyone wants to go. You just got to pop up. You got to jump. You got to go.
Question. I was going to talk about my project.
Yeah, about your project. Talk about your project. Ask a question. Yeah.
Hey. So I have a cat that lives like 30 minutes away from me, and I want to do some like long distance cat loving. So I want to make a kind of like pocket cat out of like wool, like conductive wool. So like maybe I want to like squeeze the cat and be like, oh, I love you, and it would send something over to the cat, like light up a toy that the cat has, and maybe the cat could stroke that and send it over to my pocket cat, who will kind of like shake or like maybe like massage me with a massaging scarf. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. But
I love this idea. It's the product. I would totally want that. Because this is kind of like the best of all worlds. You have the webcam, you can see the cat, but you could also interact with it. Everybody's going to want that. That's amazing. You have to do it.
Okay, well, I'll keep you updated on what's possible and what's successful.
Thank you.
Good, you're on the hook now.
Thank you. I love this idea.
Okay, so our class is
I
now.
want it to be warm.
Our class is now escaping. Let's thank Amy. Woo! Fantastic.
Thank you. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Awesome. We did too.
Good luck with your project.
Cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
everybody.
And they're all going to document their projects very well so that you'll be able to see them in all their beautiful glory.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks
And
so
I'll try
much,
to do the
Amy.
same for my class.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andrew. Nice to see you again.
You too. Awesome. Bye.
I have a question. Is she from Australia? Or
Uh,
does she just sound like she has an Australian accent every so often? Did I not catch that? Or is that just
Huh.
me weird?
I don't know.
Just made
I'm
me
not,
weird.
not feeling
I
it.
swear.
yeah, I wasn't feeling Australian.
I feel something. And it's not.
So, Larry, I still want to
Alright, so I'll just text me, I'll be here, and then I'll make sure to type person at 4:30, and I
Yeah.
start walking down and getting sure whatever season. Where is the, like, vibrating motor that you have? Is that in the back?
Maybe.
Or I'm going to act live today, I guess
What-
if they have one.
I would just scour through there so you see it. But basically it'll look like a little coin.
We're gonna need 2 of those motors, 2, photoresistors, and a speaker. We have a microphone, but one of
Well, you need, so the way that those bristle bots work is they vibrate, they use the weirdness of the wiggling brushes when it vibrates to start
Oh,
moving.
yeah, we
in
need
the direction.
toothbrushes, we need
So you need two
toothbrushes,
cheap
yeah.
toothbrushes to chop off the head to make the feet for your thing. Cool. Yeah, I think you should be able to find a vibration motor at News Radio Shack, probably at the. Yeah, cool. Yeah, do you guys have questions?
So just making sure,
Yeah.
for each round,
Yes.
we're gonna need a speaker,
Speaker,
little brain,
little brain,
a battery,
battery.
2 motors,
Yep.
well, 2 motors.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not little.
What do you need to do for your battery?
The battery, we need to make sure that.
I mean, so you're gonna have to hook it to the rest of the thing too. So like, did you see on Maddie's vest that I put on her? I had a 9-volt with like a thing that clipped on.
Yeah.
So you're gonna probably want to think about like battery storage or something like that.
Yeah.
On that soft circuit website, they had some things about like power. And like they have different ways of like hooking up batteries to like soft things or making little housings for batteries.
Right.
Just keep in mind you're gonna have to think of a way to like hook them all together.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that sounds like all the components.
Okay, we already got the microphone. This one, the one
Pretty
from.
great, guys.
It will be great if it can, if it.
Yeah.
I think it'll work.
Just work on building this awesome mouse. It's gonna be great.
And then if we can get them out to try to do too hard in the dark, then that's our environmental factor.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Totally.
All right.
Good job, guys.
Thank you. So,
Hey,
Hey, Benny. What is
We
this?
have
The museum
this,
design?
it's a museum for insects. Isn't it well done?
Yeah.
You don't even notice it's a cricket-sized museum until people walk by.
Oh, I didn't even notice them.
Yeah. But yeah, every now and then there'll be some crickets walking by. So they made art for crickets and a little thing to show it off. And if you scroll down a little bit, you can actually interact with the thing. So you can like rotate that cricket puppet left and right, and it'll spin around. It's on like a 10-second delay, so it's not going to. You'll see that little thing. There it goes. This is the.
I'm trying to decide how I can make this work with my lecture, but I don't know if I can. It's definitely not information visualization.
Hi, I need to leave class like 15 minutes early. Is that okay? I have a doctor's appointment, so thanks.
I do love it though, Andy. You're teaching interaction design, right?
Yeah.
So you can't talk about design.
What do you mean I can't talk about design?
Well, it's just,
You mean like visual design?
yeah, I'm just trying to think what there's about visual design that's
Okay.
relevant.
What you can teach that I can't teach in my class.
Well, no. I'm trying to figure out how we could, like, what relevant 5-minute talk you could give on this. But I don't really think it's visual design. I mean, it does, but I'm not sure that that's where you're engaged with this.
Well, I
And I
mean,
don't-
sometimes they have you to do, you have to change your visual design of some of your things so that your animals can be able to sense it. You know, it's like doing visual design for blind people, but, you know, creatures that operate in different visual spectrum.
Well, yeah, I'm just, I know you could give a talk on visual, how visual design.
Yes, but anyway.
Yeah, but I'm not sure it's relevant to this particular example.
Oh, to that particular, yes.
Like, so I'm trying to figure out where the subset is,
Uh-huh.
so that there would actually be value in putting you on the spot for 5 minutes.
Uh-huh.
You know, but an interaction